For centuries, there's been this one single piece of linen cloth that has absolutely captivated the world. It sparked a massive debate that pits faith against science and history against pure mystery. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most enigmatic artifacts on the entire planet, the Shroud of Turin.
And this is really the whole debate in a nutshell, right? Is this thing a 2,000-year-old miracle, the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ, somehow imprinted by the resurrection itself? Or is it a 700-year-old masterpiece, maybe one of the most brilliant and sophisticated forgeries ever made? Okay, let's get down to basics. What are we actually looking at here? If you strip away all the debate, all the emotion, what you have is this: a long, rectangular piece of linen, about 14.5 feet long. And on its surface, there's this faint, sepia-toned image showing the front and the back of a man, with wounds that look just like those from a crucifixion. But how that image got there? Well, that's the million-dollar question. That's what turns a simple piece of cloth into an enduring enigma, a puzzle that has kept theologians, historians, and scientists arguing for generations. You see, for millions of believers, this is not just some historical artifact. This is a sacred relic. They see it as a direct physical link to the central event in all of Christianity. For them, the image isn't just a picture. It's potentially a testament to a miracle, like a literal snapshot of the divine. Then you have the other side of the coin. Skeptics, and a lot of scientists, argue it's a stunning piece of human ingenuity, for sure, but a human one. A masterwork of art from the Middle Ages, created to inspire devotion, yes, but ultimately, a forgery. And that brings us right up to the present day. A recent study has just thrown a brand new, high-tech piece of evidence onto the fire, proposing a really compelling theory for how a medieval artist could have actually pulled this whole thing off. This new idea comes from a pretty genius digital experiment by a 3D designer named Cicero Moraes. Here's what he did. First, he created a 3D digital model of a human body, and then virtually draped a cloth over it to see what kind of image it would leave. But then he tried something different. He made an imprint from a shallow, low-relief sculpture, like the kind of carving you might see on an old tombstone. The last and most crucial step was to compare the two digital imprints and see which one looked more like the real shroud. And wow, the results were pretty eye-opening. The image from the full 3D body, it came out all warped and stretched. I mean, that makes sense, right? Fabric doesn't just drape perfectly flat over the curves of a human face. But the imprint that came from the shallow sculpture, that was a remarkably close match. It had that same smooth, kind of flat look that you see on the actual shroud. Moraes himself summed it up perfectly. He said the pattern from his sculpture model is just, quote, more compatible with the shroud's image. So, in other words, the digital evidence suggests the image we see came from a piece of art, not from an actual human body. Now, this new 3D theory doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It actually slots in perfectly with a whole lot of other evidence that has pointed towards a medieval origin for years. So let's take a look at how all these pieces fit together. What's so striking is how the timeline seems to back this up. For over 1,000 years after the crucifixion, there's nothing. No clear historical record of the shroud. Then, suddenly, it shows up in France in the 1350s. And what's wild is that this lines up perfectly with that famous 1988 radiocarbon test, which dated the cloth to between 1260 and 1390. And now, this new study suggests how it could have been made, right in that same time period. So when you put all the pieces together, the case for a medieval artist starts to look pretty coherent. You've got the radiocarbon date that matches its first appearance in history. You've got the 3D analysis that points to a specific artistic method, imprinting from a low-relief carving that was super common at the time. It really paints a plausible picture of a brilliant medieval masterpiece. But if it were that simple, we wouldn't still be talking about it today, would we? The case for the shroud being an authentic, ancient relic is built on a series of really profound, unanswered questions that the whole medieval forgery theory has a tough time explaining. And this is where the mystery gets so much deeper. First off, how was the image even formed? It's not paint. There are no brush strokes. It's some kind of superficial chemical change on just the very top fibers of the cloth, something no one has ever been able to fully replicate. Then there's the carbon dating. Critics argue the piece they tested was from a patch that was repaired centuries later, not the original cloth. Add to that reports of actual human blood on the shroud and pollen from plants that are found only near Jerusalem. And maybe the most baffling part, the image has the properties of a photographic negative, a concept that was completely unknown in the 14th century. Each one of these is a major, major hurdle for the simple forgery theory.
So, what are we left with? We have two incredibly compelling stories. Both are backed up by some evidence, and both have some pretty big holes. And this is where the Shroud of Turin stops being just an object and becomes this powerful symbol where science and faith collide. And here's a really crucial takeaway for you. Regardless of its origin, the shroud's cultural impact is undeniable. I mean, for centuries, the face on this cloth has literally become the face of Jesus for a huge part of the world. It shaped art, devotion, and our collective image of one of the most central figures in human history. Someone put it perfectly, calling the shroud a bridge between history, art, and belief. I think that just nails it. It forces people from every perspective, scientists, artists, historians, people of faith, to engage with each other's ideas and confront the limits of what they know. In the end, the shroud's enduring power might not be in finding a definitive answer. Its power is in the questions it makes us ask. It challenges science to try and explain what seems unexplainable, and it invites faith to find meaning in an object that just refuses to be put in a box. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Maybe the Shroud of Turin is most valuable not for what it is, but for the incredible wonder and debate it continues to inspire. So let me ask you, does a mystery really need a solution to have power over our imagination?